Okay, 40 prayers in 40 days. First, I have to apologize for being absent for a few days. I fortunately have been very busy, but not a day goes by that I don't have a prayer every day. There's a prayer. Whether I can publicly ask for your assistance or not is not always the case, but I'm here today. And I also want to say thank you to so many people who, when I don't have a prayer that I publish, um, they ask. I get messages like this. It's just very humbling, and it's wonderful. They even ask Leanne. They say, "Leanne, where's Tim's prayer?" So friends of friends, are actually asking about them. But I have them every day. So today, a few things have happened the last few days that I recognize, and I want to just bring this out. I want to ask you to join me in prayer for the disabled, and I'm going to explain to you some very specific things that happened. Last week we were at church, and Leanne and I tend to sit in the same area right up front, and we watch an elderly woman, very, very large elderly woman, struggle to come into church every day. Every Sunday. She comes in every Sunday, and she has her walker, and she goes to the handicapped section, and her daughter, I assume her daughter, is helping her to her seat and sits with her throughout. And what struck me last week was that we see this woman every single week, regardless of her obvious disabilities, very struggling to walk, but is there. But her daughter, who not young, I don't know how old, but not a young person, once she sat her mother down and moved the walker out of the way, I realized she too has physical issues. I could see that her hands were trembling. And I started to think about the responsibility that this daughter must have, not only to take care of her mother, who is very disabled, but will go to church, make sure she goes to church, but that she too is struggling with something. Her hands were just trembling. And at one point, I glanced over and saw her try to calm one hand with the other. And I just hit me how difficult and complicated her life must be. So I prayed for her that day. And then yesterday, Leanne and I and some friends went to a passion play. And where we sat, we were across the aisle was a wheelchair area. And what you'd expect to see in a wheelchair area was some elderly people who just, couldn't walk or whatever it might be, but they were handicapped and needed that section. But then just as the play was about to begin, a family came in with a extremely disabled young lady who had no control over her extremities, her arms, legs, neck. Everything was just moving and contorting, and I really, really struggled watching her watch the play. And I thought about her family and what that must be like, because it doesn't go away. It's every day. And so many of us are blessed, yet we complain about little things. This hurts, that hurts, or whatever it might be. But man, we're really blessed. And I wish more of us realized how blessed we are. Just pay attention to what's out there. And then today in church, there was a woman with, again, I assume her son, a few pews up, and he was not a young man, probably in his 20s or so. But again, I'm making assumptions that he has autism of some kind, somewhere on the spectrum, and was not in control of his voice, and he was making noises or making grunts or laughs or whatever it was that he was doing. And it doesn't bother me. It never bothers me. I'm just glad to see them in church. But then I thought about what it must have been like for his mother when he was a baby, when he was growing up, like all those years of what that must be like. But there they were in church, and it was delightful, you know. But at the same time, the woman sitting behind Leanne and I learned was a little aggravated that our friend's young son, who's just being a typical 3-year-old, was annoying her. I thought, oh my God, really? A 3-year-old, being a 3-year-old in church is annoying you. So church was over. I prayed for her too. I don't know. I find some things very difficult and ironic. So please, today, join me in praying for the disabled, the severely disabled, and their families, those who care for them. How hard that must be. And then also, one other thing, recently a friend of mine who enjoys that I do the prayers asks me if I ever pray for specific people for specific things. And I said, of course I do, but I don't necessarily ask everybody to share in those prayers. But today I am. A friend of ours is having surgery, not minor, on her spine. And she seems to be like, it's just surgery, I'll be fine, everything's good. But I'm nervous. I know science has brought us in places that we couldn't even imagine, 5, 10, 20 years ago, can't even imagine. But it's surgery on her spine, and it makes me nervous. So I ask you to pray for her today, too. Happy Palm Sunday.